From ball boy to legend. Before Cristiano Ronaldo ever wore a professional jersey, before cameras followed his every move and stadiums echoed his name, his place in football was far from the spotlight. At that time, he was not a player stepping onto the pitch, but a young boy standing quietly on the sidelines, wearing simple clothes, holding a football in his hands, working as a ball boy. On match days, while the crowd filled the stands with noise and excitement, Cristiano observed the game with a seriousness far beyond his age. He didn't watch football the way other children did. He wasn't there just to enjoy the goals or celebrate the wins. Instead, he watched every detail closely. How players positioned themselves before receiving the ball, how they reacted after losing possession, how confidence or frustration showed in the way they ran. Every time the ball went out of play, Cristiano sprinted to retrieve it, as if the match depended on him. Not because anyone demanded speed from him, but because being close to the pitch made him feel connected to something bigger. Each second near those players felt like a lesson, and he absorbed it all silently. Sometimes, when he handed the ball back, he would look at the players' boots, their socks, the way they carried themselves. In his mind, he wasn't just giving the ball away. He was imagining himself standing there one day, under the same lights, wearing the same colors, being part of the game, rather than watching it. Cristiano came from a modest family, and football was more than just a dream. It was his way forward. While other children played casually after school, he carried the weight of ambition early. Even as a ball boy, he already understood that opportunity often comes quietly, and only those who are prepared will recognize it when it arrives. He didn't know exactly when his chance would come. He didn't know who would notice him or how his journey would begin. But one thing was certain. He wasn't just watching football anymore. He was learning it, living it, and slowly preparing himself for the moment when he would no longer stand on the sidelines. That boy holding the ball didn't realize it yet, but his journey had already begun. As the matches ended and the stadium slowly emptied, Cristiano Ronaldo's day was far from over. While most people walked away satisfied with what they had seen, he carried something different with him. Questions, observations, and an intense hunger to be more than just a spectator. When he returned home, the image of the pitch stayed in his mind. The sound of the crowd, the rhythm of the game, the moments when a single touch changed everything, they replayed over and over again. And instead of resting, Cristiano picked up a ball and stepped outside, finding any open space he could use. He practiced alone, repeating the movements he had seen earlier. He imagined defenders closing him down, imagined pressure, imagined the weight of expectation. Every touch mattered, even if no one was watching. To him, football was never about applause. It was about control, improvement, and discipline. At school, his teachers noticed something unusual. Cristiano was restless, often distracted, not because he didn't care, but because his mind was somewhere else. Football followed him everywhere, into the classroom, onto the streets, and into his dreams. While other children talked about games they played for fun, Cristiano spoke about becoming a professional, as if it were already decided. People around him began to see the difference. Coaches noticed his seriousness, friends noticed how obsessed he was, and some misunderstood him, thinking he was arrogant or too intense for his age. But Cristiano wasn't trying to stand out. He simply refused to slow down. Even when he worked as a ball boy, he treated the role with respect, as if it were part of his preparation. He watched how professionals warmed up, how they focused before kickoff, and how they reacted after mistakes. Slowly, unknowingly, He was building habits that many players only learn much later. At night, when the lights went out, Cristiano would lie awake, visualizing a future that felt distant yet certain. He didn't know the exact path, but he trusted the work. And deep inside, he believed that every small step, even standing on the sidelines, was shaping him into something greater. That belief, quiet and unshakable, was what separated him from the rest. Time passed, and slowly the line between watching football and living football began to fade for Cristiano Ronaldo. What started as admiration from the sidelines transformed into participation, and participation turned into responsibility. The boy who once returned the ball now chased it with purpose. When Cristiano finally joined organized training sessions, the difference was immediately clear. His touch was sharper, his movement more decisive, and his hunger unmistakable. He played as if every drill was an audition, every moment a test he could not afford to fail. Mistakes didn't discourage him, they challenged him. While other young players waited for instructions, Cristiano took initiative. He stayed behind after training, repeating exercises, asking questions, studying movements. Coaches noticed that he wasn't just learning what to do, but why to do it. He wanted to understand the game deeply, not just play it. There were moments of doubt, moments when his body struggled to keep up with his ambition. He was lean, still growing, often physically outmatched. But what he lacked in strength, he compensated for speed, technique, and an almost stubborn determination. He refused to accept limitations placed on him by age or size. The transition from ball boy to player was not instant. It demanded patience, resilience, and sacrifice. Cristiano missed social gatherings, skipped rest, and chose discipline over comfort. Football wasn't something he balanced with life, it was the center of it. Slowly, people around him began to change the way they spoke about him. He was no longer the kid who helps on match days. He was becoming someone to watch, someone different, someone who played with urgency, as if time was always running out. And deep down, Cristiano knew this was only the beginning. The real challenge wasn't stepping onto the pitch, it was staying there, proving every single day that he belonged. As Cristiano Ronaldo's presence on the pitch grew stronger, so did the expectations placed upon him. Training sessions were no longer just about learning, they became moments of judgment. Every touch, every sprint, every decision was observed more closely than before. Some days were harder than others. There were sessions where nothing seemed to work, where fatigue slowed his legs and frustration tested his patience. But instead of stepping back, Cristiano pushed forward. He stayed longer, ran harder, and demanded more from himself than anyone else. What truly set him apart was his mindset. While others measured success by praise, Cristiano measured it by progress. A better first touch, a faster turn, a more precise shot. Improvement became his obsession, and consistency became his weapon. Coaches began to rely on him, teammates trusted him, and slowly, the responsibility shifted. Cristiano was no longer just proving himself, he was carrying expectations. He played with intensity, but also with intention, learning when to take risks and when to stay composed. Off the pitch, life remained simple. There were no shortcuts, no privileges, just routine, discipline, and sacrifice. Cristiano understood that talent could open doors, but only work could keep them open. The journey from ball boy to professional footballer wasn't defined by one breakthrough moment. It was built through countless unseen hours, quiet determination, and an unshakable belief that he belonged among the best. And as opportunities continued to rise, one thing became increasingly clear. Cristiano Ronaldo was no longer chasing a dream. he was becoming it. Looking back, the distance between a ball boy and a professional footballer may seem enormous, but for Cristiano Ronaldo, that distance was crossed one step at a time long before the world ever noticed. The transition was not marked by headlines or applause, but quiet commitment and relentless preparation. When Cristiano finally earned his place as a professional, it didn't feel like an arrival, it felt like confirmation. Confirmation that the hours spent watching from the sidelines mattered, that every sprint to return a ball, every night of training alone, every sacrifice made in silence had a purpose. He understood something many never do. Greatness is not created in the spotlight. It is shaped in moments when no one is watching, when effort goes